Hello everyone, good morning. I'm Sushil. Hope everyone is doing good and healthy. Welcome to this live session on the topic of software testing tools and techniques. It's morning 7:30 here and the weather outside is 7 degrees and cloudy. It's really cold outside, guys. Hope everyone is able to listen me. So let me start now. So let me introduce myself. I'm Sushil. I have totally 8 years of experience in working in the IT industry. Initially, I was a developer, then I have fallen in love with the software testing. I started working as a test automation engineer. Now I'm working on the test automation framework development. Also, I'm ISTQB certified testers, and I have two certification. One is foundation level and another is advanced test automation level. Guys, I'm new to the YouTube live and this is my very first live session. Believe me, I have never done it before. Even before this session, I was struggling with setting up the audio and my streaming software is crashed ultimately. And then, but everything is fine, God grace. The name of my live session, the name of my channel is TA Basics, where TA stands for Test Automation. And last but not least, really thanks to iBase for organizing this very nice session and giving me the opportunity to present my knowledge in front of you guys. So let me proceed forward. So as part of this session, I will be covering below listed topics. So our presentation topic is software testing, tools and techniques. So we'll talk about software testing, what is software testing, what are the types is, mm, what are the types of the testing, manual and automation testing, and then the responsibilities of the manual and automation testers. Then we'll talk about the tools and techniques, like what are the tools and techniques for the automation testing which is available in the market. I will talk about the open source tools, and then we'll talk about the certification, which certification you should do it for testing. Also then I will give you the short demo and I will talk about my upcoming video series for the Python, Selenium and Gherkin. And finally we'll talk about the summary. But I just wanted to clear one thing. In this session, I'm covering the basic knowledge of the software testing and how to be under the same knowledge how you will use to become a software test engineer, whether it's a manual or automation. Okay, so now let's proceed. And first, before going to the software testing, let's understand what is testing. Guys, I will be spending more time on this topic. Hope you will enjoy. Don't leave in between. There is something interesting is coming out in the further slides. This is also required for the automation testing. So let's start. Okay, so you saw the word process. Okay, so testing is a process which includes many different activities such as test execution, test planning, analyzing, designing, implementing the test, reporting the test progress and results, and evaluating the quality of the product under test, like review, validation, verification, all those things. So we will see all those things in a detail in the minor level. Okay, and so before going to this, I just wanted to clear you. You will heard some terminologies like product under test, application under test, software under test. You know what this is mean? It means You will perform testing on something. What is that something? Example, let's say a mobile device. Now you wanted to test the mobile device. So the mobile device itself is the software under test or product under test or application under test. End of the things, let's call it as something under test. Means you what you are going to do, you are going to test that particular thing. Okay, let's take another application like online shopping application. It's like Amazon or Flipkart. It's also a application under test. IoT product, it's also application under test. If you really want to test the WhatsApp is again application under test. So when you take something for testing, it will become something under test. Okay, so hope so it's clear. And so testing is not only running the test and checking the results. So uh, when we talk about the testing, we always say, okay, just write the test cases and execute them, capture the result, and store the result. That's it, done. No, it's more than that. So let's start now the real uh, actual what happens inside the testing. Okay, so this process consists of following set of activities. The very first activities is planning. Very first activity is planning. Test planning involves activities that defines the objective of testing and the approach for meeting the test. So what we have to do, we need to plan first. So whenever you go somewhere, like let's say if you plan a trip to go outside, what you do planning. I know that end of the time it may be fail because our friends will say, okay, I'll not come, and all those things will happen. But but planning is required. Without that, we cannot achieve the goal. Okay, so here also we have to do the planning, like specifying suitable test techniques, tasks, and formulating a test schedule for meeting the deadline. So what's happened when you join some company and if you are a part of a testing team, then uh, you will be part of this planning. So in this planning, you will create some tasks, what things you need to test. Do we have already do we have already there are test cases, or shall we draft new test cases? Shall we create a new test cases? Do we have tools already available? Do we have the people who will work on this testing, who will execute these things manually? Just this is what why we do this, to meet the deadline. Okay, test schedule, because that's also important. If we started for something, it has to be end. So when we decide, okay, we are going to do the testing for this particular product, then it will have some deadline. Okay, you will tell your client. So who is the client here? The person who want to create a software. So the and and it's depend on the market, so it depend on the project, depend on the what type of risk in that project. So we all do this kind of a planning here, high level planning, and then we go for the second process, that is test monitoring and control. Okay, so let's talk about the monitoring control now. So these are the higher level things you can just remind, you can keep in your mind, so that when you go for the interviews, at least you can talk about this. Okay, so test monitoring involves the ongoing comparison of actual progress against a plan progress. Okay, so I already told you the actuality is different and plan things is different. So we say that, okay, in one day I'm going to execute 20 test cases, but if your application is so big, then you also have to monitor how many test cases you have executed today. So if your plan is like, okay, in a 1 month I will be completing all the testing, I will be executing all the test cases. So are we really doing that? So we need to progress, right? if if some one of the tester is fall sick, if he's not available, if he has some urgency to go outside, something has been happened. So let's say we in my team there are 5 testers, now there are only 3 testers because 2 testers went on leave. So we already planned that in the before process, but now suppose out of three, one person has some emergency, he has to go. So the thing is, now we have only two testers. So are we really finishing our work in the two testers? So the monitoring and control is really required here. So test control also involves taking the action necessary to meet the objective of the test plans, which may be updated over time. Okay, so sometimes you plan, okay, I will finish in 30 days. On if you are not able to do that, then some 5 days or 10 days will be going to extra. So we just have to update that kind of a particular plan. Or this is all about the monitoring. So we are monitoring the current situation and we are controlling it. If we are not able to finish the testing in that particular time, what are we going to do? We may little, it may be extended, but we have to finish that. Yes, then only we can release the software. Okay. So sometimes there are something like a definition of done. It's like setting some criteria, run run all the test cases or run only specific test cases. If you have thousands of test cases and if you don't want to run all of them, you just have selected test cases, then just run that. So that is also called as definition of done. Definition of done means when you actually done it. So what is the definition of, let's say today I will work on one task and I will finish it. Okay, as part of the particular the sprint, when you work in the agile, in this 10 days I will finish, I will work on this particular topic and I will finish that. Once it is finished, you say okay, it's done. If something has been pending and something is not completed, then you cannot make it done. So for example, I'll give you a real-time example. For the freshers, when you do college project, you need to submit your documentation. You have to review first place, you submit your abstract, then review cycle will happen. You will review it with your team leads, the guide, and then you start working on documentation. Also parallelly you start working on your coding, and then you demo it multiple times, and when everything is finished, then only your actual projects get submitted. So this is like a definition of done, means it is completed, it's a done. Okay. So sometimes what happen in the monitoring and control, if we determine, like let's say if you think we need more test cases needs to be executed, so what happens, we already executing some 10 test cases or 15 test cases or 1000 test cases. Now we really thought of, okay, no, we are getting, actually we wanted to add some more test cases and we want to execute it. So what we are doing here, we are like flexible here also in the decision, but you need to really monitor and control the things. If you are not able to do the things in the time, then you need to really control it. Okay, if the test originally intended to achieve a certain level of product risk coverage and it's failed to do so, it requires additional tests to be written and executed. Okay, sometimes when you do the monitoring control, you can take a decision also to stop the testing, because you are getting a lot of bugs, but you should not supposed to do that. And why to waste the time? Why should I proceed for next things? So let's stop it. So that kind of decisions also we can take in this space. Okay, hope it is clear now. We just saw the planning, monitoring and control. Now let's go to the analysis. So what is analysis here? And this is also an interview question, and you will really work, you will take this into practice when you start working with the organization. So whenever the analysis comes in the picture, you should always say what to test. Okay, what to test, that the question is what, like such as a requirement specification, such as a business requirement, functional requirement, system requirement. Let me know if you are not able to understand some terms. We are going little deep inside the software testing, but it's needed, guys. That's why I'm taking you little deep. I know that maybe this session The starting of this session might be boring, but this is required. Okay, so this is the analysis, this is the analysis phase. Now what we'll do, system or software architecture diagram or documentation we will analyze. Also we can analyze the code, database metadata, queries, interfaces, all of these things. So what do we have to really test? Do we need to test the documents, or do we need to test our software? And like, so we will do the high level of analysis here. Okay, and let's go to the another step, which is like a test design. Okay, so here something is different. During the test design, the test conditions are converted into high level test cases. Now we are in the phase that we are creating a test cases. So test analysis answers the question what to test, while test design answers the question how to test. Okay, so you see that analysis. So when you do the analysis, simply ask this question what, and when you do design, how. Okay, so this is very important. Also this is also interview question. So when someone asks you what is analysis, what is design, you can always keep these two things in the mind. And I also speak about test condition. What is that condition? Let me explain you through example. Okay, so consider there is a login screen. Login if username and password is correct. Don't log in if the username or password is incorrect. So my first condition is login. Log into my system when I enter the correct username and password. The second test condition is don't log into my system when I enter the invalid username and password. Okay, so in this phase, we can use some test design techniques also. Those who are aware about the test design techniques, for them it's very easy to design the test cases. So there are some test design techniques. So when you write a test case, how will you come up with the test case? So for login screen only, it's not only one single test case. It will be more than one test case, like positive scenario with correct username and password, negative scenario, incorrect username and password. What happens when you don't provide the password and just provide the username and click on the login? What happens? Does the application crash, or do we get a proper message on the screen saying you need a password to proceed further? These things. So you have to think about this kind of test conditions when you come up with the test cases. So the first analysis, then test design. Now you are in the phase that you can create the test cases by remembering or by thinking about these test conditions. Okay, hope this is clear. Now let's move to the test implementation. Now this is something interesting again. So during test implementation, everything which is necessary for test execution is completed, like a plan, design documentation, scripts, input, expected result, setup. Setup means, do we really have a data to start our testing? Your software needs some data, right? Some input to start with. Then clear up procedures. Like, let's say your software has a database which has already some data in it. So do we need some clear up procedure to, okay, clear the database and start the testing again? Okay, so this will come in the implementation. So like a database environment and any additional software or utilities used in the testing. So now, here it is including the sequencing the test cases into the procedure, so that the design answers the question how to test, while the test implementation answers the question really do we have everything now in the place to test. Okay, this is most important for the freshers. Maybe they are confused here. What is test implementation? If you think of this, like, do we really have everything now in the place to run the test. Okay, now you have a software, but you don't have database behind, which is maybe you don't have the database which is properly connected with your software. Are you be able to test? No. Do you have environment? Do you have a test environment? Means you cannot go to the developer machine and start doing the test. You need your own system. If it is a web application, then does it deployed on the particular cloud, or does it deployed locally? If you don't have a cloud, are you able to access it? Do we have some procedures like for example how to create the environment? Okay, but you cannot go each and every time to the developer and ask them, can you help me in setting up this environment? No, you cannot do that each and every time because the developer is busy in doing his or her task, and you cannot disturb them. So in the implementation time, you should really ask this question: do we have everything now in the place to test? So once you have everything in the place, then start the testing. Start that process. Start actual testing of the software. So this is also important. Hope you got what I wanted to say. This is the basical thing is like um, let's say it's like what we did here, like a pre-planning. Do we have everything when you go outside, or some when you go for the trip, we always check that okay, we have a bag ready. Do we have all the items? If you are going for 4 5 days, do we have enough clothes? Do you have tickets with you? Everything's like just think in terms of you are in the real time example, in the real life example, just relate these things. Okay, so test implementation. The only this particular sentence, do we have everything in place? This answers your question for this thing. Now let's go for the uh, test execution. This is another process. Now there are some 2 3 are pending for this particular slide. So the test execution. So what happens in the test execution? Okay, so test execution such as recording the IDs and the version of the software under test tool. Tests were executing tests either manually or by using the test execution tool like automation testing, comparing the actual result, expected result, report the defect based on the failure, log the outcome of the test execution, example, pass or fail or block. So what we are doing here, we have started the actual execution of the test. Now you have a test cases ready. Till this time that you have test cases ready, then you take those test cases and start their actual execution. So let's take example of login screen. Okay, the first case is verify when user enters correct username and password, then I should navigate to the home screen. So this is my first test case. Okay, so step 1, you enter the username. Step 2, you enter the password, then you click on the login. Did you really land it up in on the home screen? Did you really navigate it to the home screen? It's supposed to, right? If it is landed to the home screen, your test case is passed. If and let's take another scenario. Verify that user will get an error message when user enters wrong username and credentials. So here, when you enter first time when you enter username wrong, password wrong, then you should get an error. Okay, the credentials which you provided to the software is not correct. So you got an error. Here also test case is pass. But let's say you have entered the correct username and correct password. Still you are not able to navigate to the home screen. Then your test case is fail. So what you will do here? This is not expected, right? What's the expectation? The expectation is when you enter the correct username password, you should see the home screen. That is the expectation. That is how the software is designed, but it is not working as expected. Means it has a defect. Then you can report that defect. You can discuss about that defect. If it is confirmed, then it will be the bug. Okay, so this kind of things like Also, when you do this test execution, you need to record whether it is pass or fail. And I told you, like, you need to tool. Yeah, there are tools available. Like if you talk about HPQC, yeah, it's commercial tool. It's a licensed tool. You have to pay for that. Jira, there is a most famous tool, Jira. If you are working for Microsoft kind of technologies, then it's something is a test management, MTM, Microsoft Test Management. You will write your test cases in that. So the tools will be available in the market where you'll write a test case, you take them, and you start execution of them. Means, and how you execute the test? You take a first test case, you execute it, then you say, okay, it's fast, okay, mark it as pass. If it's fail, but in the automation testing, you will not do everything manually. You will write some script. What the scripts will do, scripts will enter username, script will enter password, script will click on the login, then it will verify, I'm really on the login screen, are really on the home screen. If I am on the home screen, let's pass the verification. Then you can use that kind of a logic inside. Okay, this is pass, and you can put it that in your report. So right from execution to generating the report, everything is automated. But in the manual case, you will do these things manually. This is all about the test execution. I will not drag little further. I know this is little confusing for the first place if you really don't have the practical experience. Once you join some company, or if you take some courses where things are happening practically, and if when the practical happens, this will be easier for you. What is test case, how to execute them, which tool to use, all those things. Okay, so now uh, test completion. So this is another process like a test completion. The test completion activities collect the data from completed test activities. Like as I already told you, we have executed some test cases. Now we have the data. How many? Let's say I have a 10 test case to execute today. Out of 10, all 10 are pass. Wow, the software is working as expected. Okay, checking whether all the defects reports are closed. I given you the like already given you the scenario. When you enter correct username password, but still you are not able to log in, means there is a defect. Are you really reported that? And does it closed? So when you talk about test completion, it should be reported, it should be fixed. So that kind of decisions can be taken. So, but the thing is, checking whether all the defects are reported are closed means you should, when you get a bug, when you get a defect, you should report that. You should take a follow up that, make sure it is fixed before releasing the software. Otherwise, if you release the software with the defect, you know what will happen. You will lose your reputation. There is a loss of money. Then I can give you the best examples. Let's say there are healthcare system, and like MR machine, CT machine, they are very risky. If there is some defect, and because of that defect, if there is an injury for patient, then it's very serious, right? So like this is the healthcare example. Like just think about the flight, when the flight takeoffs in the flight. So the testing is very important. So even WhatsApp also, you are typing the message and it goes to some wrong person, then there's something like, there are a lot of serious things. So that's the reason testing is very important. So in the test completion phase, we will communicate all those things. Okay, and we create the test summary report and communicate with the stakeholders. Say stakeholders like product owner in the company when you join, and if you are working in agile team, there is someone like a product owner who owns the product and who gets the requirement from customers. Also, it can share with the customers also. Okay, we have done this testing, this is our report, we are good to live. Even test managers and some like big members are in the team, and these are the reports. You can also show it your progress. Like if you say, okay, out of 1,000 test cases, we just finished 20 test cases, like how many executed, how many are not executed. Okay, and also like what you do, you finalize everything and you create a zip file of it. So what will contain inside the zip file? You can keep a test data like username, passwords, multiple combinations, because what username password you use, what is the wrong username password you use. So it's all about the data, right? So we just took a simple example, but when there is a software which needs different kind of input data, then you really need to preserve it. You really need to save it. Also, the environment which you have set up, that also you need to zip it. Zip it means you need to keep that configuration in the somewhere, and you need to store it. Why we do this? Because let's say if suppose if the bug happens in the production, like in the live when it goes to the user, and if you really wanted to verify that how does it happen on this particular version of the software, then you can restore everything. Like you can take that old, you can unzip that file or unzip that whole folder, and you can take out what test data we use when we done this testing, what is the environment, what is the configuration, what is the OS version, what is the software under test version, what kind of version we run this test, these many things uh, we will use it. So in the test completion phase, you keep everything as a kind of a zip so that it will be used. Also, mm, so so the test completion, what is the end goal of this test completion? It's like analyzing the lesson learned from the completed test activities to determine change needed in future iteration, release or project. So it can be useful for the analysis purpose also. So this is test completion, means it's a completion activity, end activity. Okay, then V and V. So what is V and V? So V and V is a verification and validation. This is the most important phase in most of the companies. They do this. In this phase, they test their software. So I'll tell you what is a verification. When verification comes, you should always have this question: Are we building the product right? Let's assume it. Assuming we should build a software, does our software achieve its goal without any bug or gaps? This is what product right. And what is validation? Are we building the right product? Confusing, right? Yeah. This questions also comes in the interview. This question comes for most if suppose if you are experienced guy in the software testing, and if you are going for another company, they may ask you this question like, okay, what is VNV, what is the difference of it? So you can read in the detail. So you will get this material on site also, like online, sorry. You can read about this more detail online, but I will tell you very simple. Just remember this: product right and right product. Means in the validation, we always ask, are we building the right product? On the other hand, software validation is, was software what we should have built? Does the software meet the high level of requirement? So now we in the verification we test everything to make the product by asking this particular the question: are we building the product right? Are we building the product right? Okay. And in the validation, what we do actually, we will focus most on the customer centric scenarios, the customer requirements. Means, okay, now we have designed the software and we have tested in the verification phase. In the validation, what are we going to do? We will make sure, we will re-verify it, like, okay, are we really is this product really right? So everything is proper. Are we really releasing the same thing which is customer has asked us? Sometimes what happen, customers has asked you something and you deliver it something. Your test case will fail. Sorry, your test case will pass, but still you need to verify your software with the customer requirements. So the customer requirements also, there will be some test cases which will be covering those customer requirements. So I just wanted to say here, and there are many more things in the software testing also. So, but I told you the basic things. The V&V is little confusing, I know, in the first place for the freshers, but you can read this about in the detail. But the intention. So I just wanted to say here, testing not only focus on verification of requirement, but also focuses on the validation. That's what I wanted to say in the V&V. Okay, and the validations are mostly like it has a customer requirements. So this is all about the testing and its basics and the general. This process, let me drink some water. This process gets used in the software industry. For freshers, when you join some company, you will realize it. And for experience, they are already doing it. Okay, then let's move to the, now we just finished the testing. We already spent the 30 minutes here. Now let's talk about our core topic, like what is software testing. So according to the Wikipedia, the definition is software testing is an investigation conducted to provide stakeholders with information about equality of the software, product or service under test. Product under test or service under test. It's like what are you testing now? You are testing software, so it's a software under test. Okay, let's call it something under test. Software testing can also provide an objective, independent view of the software to allow the business to appreciate and understand the risk of software implementation. Test techniques include the process of executing program or application with the intent of finding software bugs, error defects, and verify that software product is fit for this. Oh my god. So hope you really need a patience to understand this definition, but it has everything you're supposed to do. So I just highlighted some points like software testing is an investigation, right? You really do the investigation. You ask a lot of questions to the software which is built by the developer. You have a lot of test cases. Then we can focus on this word like for what is investigation for quality of the software or product under test. Let's take an example here. Mobile phone. When it is developed, it doesn't directly come to you. It must be tested. WhatsApp. If the WhatsApp release, if they releases a new feature, then the app will be before it available to the app store. They do the testing internally. So here what we are doing, we are investigating some things. Okay, and now this is like software under test. So nothing but a software. Also, when you do the testing, it's intention to find the error or other defects. And if they are coming, prevent the defect. Don't release your software with the defects. Make sure requirements have been fulfilled, which are given by stakeholders. Who is stakeholder here? The product owner, manufacturer, some company, etc. I told you about this. Check whether the software is complete and validated if it works as the user and other stakeholder expects. So make sure the software which you have designed is expected according to the user. So for whom you have designed the things, you design it for the users. Who is going to use it? Users. So you need to design for them. So you need to consider and you need to respect them, their requirements. Then only the users will use our software. If the bug is found in the testing process, fix them and make sure it will work as expected. End goal here is to reduce the level of risk. Okay, so this is already mentioned in the this definition. The end goal here is to reduce the level of risk of inadequate software quality. It doesn't mean defect free, but reduce the level of risk. I don't say that okay, software what are we going to release it to user, it will be defect free. It's not correct, but at least we can reduce the level of risk. Sometimes if you talk about like medical systems, it's very risky systems, like you have to really take care of this testing seriously. you need to make sure everything is tested properly before it goes to the who is the end user for that hospitals. Like patient comes and patient should not be injured. Everything will be safe. Like X-ray machines, then CT, MRI, all those things. Like even let's take a small example like WhatsApp, small software. If you join some group, make sure you are sending the messages to that particular group. It should not go to some other group. Okay, likewise. So in the software testing, if you see this diagram, so what I'm doing now, I'm just giving this software to this testing process. Okay, this testing process, what is happening inside the testing process, you already know. There is a planning, analysis, design, execution, V&V. There are a lot of phases. The software has to go through all the phases and make sure, okay, it's qualified that okay it is working as expected, then only it will be released to the end users. Okay, so this is the journey of the software, like how it goes to the testing process and then it goes to the end user. Oh, so we cover a lot here, right? Yes, this happens in the reality. Those who are new to the testing, yes guys, this is how the testing works in industry. So I'm going little deep because this is also I know that there are some freshers might be joining my session who already joined my session and watching this live. So when you join some companies, then you will realize whatever I shared with you. Okay, so now your journey will start for manual and automation testing. So now let's talk about those things. But before going there, uh, let's talk about types of software testing. Okay, so there are two types basically. Functional, this is not a manual, and automation testing is like a way to do these things. Okay, so basically the types of software testing is functional testing and non-functional testing. Okay, this is also interview questions. Functional testing. So what is functional testing? What a system does. So when you talk about functional testing, it more focuses on what system does rather than how system does. So I'll give you the example. I know that this is confusing. So when you enter a valid username and password, then the login will be successful. So this is a functional testing. When you enable a WhatsApp notification, you will receive messages from your friend on your phone screen. This is a functional testing. Then what non-functional testing here? How the system does. Means within a design and the resource constraint. So let's say example. After login, does homepage loads in 2 seconds? Consider there are thousands of users who is using your web application and they are trying to log in. In that case, your homepage loading may differ here. Okay, if you are simply a single user and you are asking those question, does homepage loads in 2 seconds? Another example like WhatsApp message notification receives in 5 seconds. If there are billions of millions of messages on the WhatsApp, that message bus, do we really get that message in 5 seconds? Does it really receive to all the users in particular seconds? So what we are doing, we are setting up the expectation in terms of performance. Okay, some how they have designed. So maybe you have to change the design or resources. Let's say you are running your Java program, Apache Tomcat on particular server, and you have your own application like software is deployed there. Okay, so now uh, like now you know that okay there is a login screen application, there is one feature in for your software login screen. Okay, for some user it works fine, but when there is a load increase, when there are many users are coming online and they are trying to log in, does your software working as it is? So you need to test that also. Okay, so that comes in the non-functional testing. Okay, so I'll give you the good example again. Now the Flipkart Big Billion Day is coming. Friends, the traffic will be huge when there is a sale. It's whether it is Amazon or Flipkart. We all go and start purchasing the things. Okay, so the load is will be more. So they have done, they definitely they have done this testing. Another nice example is IRCTC booking, Tatkal booking. Okay, I think now you got it, what I mean to say. So the functional testing is something like, now let's speak about only functional, this part. So we are, so there are different types of now like sub part of the functional testing. Like unit testing is a part of functional. Component testing, unit testing means unit, you will touch to your unit part of the code. So what is the unit part of the software? Is like a code. Okay, so code is a unit now. So you will have unit testing to test your own code. Let's say you have a calculator software, and now you are entering like 2 plus 2 is equals to 4. Okay, does that add method really giving you the expected result? If you pass 2 plus 2, you should get a 4. When you pass 2 plus 3, you should get 5. When you pass 2 minus, like addition, then when there is a function of subtraction, you will have some test cases. So this is comes under unit testing. Component testing means is small components, like okay, different components, like okay, a login screen and then home page. It's like component level. I think this word itself says component testing. Smoke testing, I will explain you about this. Sanity testing, black box testing, regression testing, system testing. There are many types of testings. Okay, so but these are the basic things I just try to cover here. So the smoke testing is also will be done in the company. Okay, so let's say when you receive a build first time and you run the basic checks, like you have installed the app in your mobile, and when you click on it, it should open. Okay, login should happen, navigation should happen. When you visit some web application, like you have developed some web app, you just open the browser, enter the URL, hope it is working. It should not giving you the error like okay, database connectivity is not there, all those things. Okay, means in the smoke testing we check the stability, whether our application is stable or not. And what is build? So when, like I'll tell you in the basic concept, what is basic terminology. So build is nothing but you have your code, right? You build that code. When that code is built and when it gets released to the testers, it's called as a build. So you simply build your application, you simply build your code. That is also a build. So I'll give you the example, like okay, you have the web application, now you have designed in the Java and Apache Tomcat. Now whatever the code is there in the Java, you will take that code like var file and you will deploy on the Apache Tomcat directory. So that var file is a build. Like that, when you write a code in the C sharp, you publish a .dll. So this DLL is kind of the single DLL or combination of DLL. I'm talking about the whole application here. So the whole application, like web app, the when you download some, um, if you have the mobile application, you distribute the APK. So APK is a build. So that kind of things. So in the smoke testing, we just test the stability. But in the sanity testing, we focus on the rationality. Means after multiple rounds of regression tests. So this always happen after the regression test. This can be applied when after receiving the build, like a code change or bug fix. So what we do, the first we do the smoke test and then we do the sanity test. Like smoke test, okay, we got a build from developer, okay, we check the basic functionality, whether it is launching, whether you are able to log in. If it is not launching, then no point of doing the further testing. If you are not, even if you enter correct username and password, and if you are not able to navigate to the home page, you are getting your database connectivity issue or something else. If you are getting some, suddenly you get some error page like 500, 404, then no point of doing other component testing because you cannot proceed further. A smoke test. In the sanity test, everything is happen. Now you run the regression test. So let's talk about the regression test now. So regression test means running all your tests, all. So let's say you targeted to run 1000 tests for this particular testing phase. So this is the regression. So this comes under functional. But in the regression you found that okay, now there are two bugs. There are two particular pages has a bug. So you can you can just do the sanity of those things, and those bugs. What will happen then? You raise the bugs, it goes to the developer, and the developer fix it. Then again give the build to you. So that build you then again if you try to run all the test cases, again you have to spend some more time. So to run the 1,000 test cases, if it is taking 10 days for you, and if you run it again after the fix, it will again take the 10 days, 20 days. But what if you do the sanity testing? Sanity testing means like, okay, you are just verifying that, okay, the fix, the code change done by the developer is working fine. Then again, you can, it's depend whether you wanted to again run the regression, but do the sanity test to check its rationality. Okay, so this is the basic things. Black box testing, white box testing. The white box testing is a little different, like it's more structural. But when you do the black box testing, there is a nothing known to the testers. Everything is like a black box. Just consider black box. You don't know what is there inside. This is how the functional testing is works. And now let's talk about the non-functional testing. So this many comes under the non-functional testing, like performance testing, documentation testing, reliability testing, security testing, usability testing, scale, many more. Okay, but I just cover the basic. So again, when you go little deep for the performance testing, there are subtypes like stress testing, load testing. Okay, so in the interviewer asked this question: what is the difference between stress testing and the load testing? So both the type are basically goal of the testing: unit testing, component testing, smoke testing, sanity testing, blah blah blah. What we try to do here, what the system should does, and same example I told you earlier: login scenario and WhatsApp notification. Likewise, the type of non-functional testings are the performance testing, documentation, reliability, blah blah blah. So friends, if you see here one topic like security testing, so it's a big domain. If you wanted to make a career in security testing, this is also another opportunity. Most of the companies will have their special team who does the security testing. If you want to make a career in testing, then security testing is also a very good domain. In this domain, security testers find out any loophole in the system, and they try to keep your system safe so that the can't hack it easily. Example, the best example like OTP is also best example to avoid the attack. So before log into your bank account, you receive OTP to your mobile. Means it's like a solution has been given to maintain the security of that bank application, so that if someone gets our username password, they cannot log in. Okay, so there are many examples of it, but I know that we cannot cover it in this session, because this session is, I just wanted to keep this very short and crisp, just to explain you the basic things, otherwise you will get confused. Likewise, in the performance testings, also in some companies there is a domain like a performance testing, but even the automation testers also can do the performance testing. So what they do, like they can run up scripts, because when you talk about performance, you cannot do that manually, you cannot verify that manually. So when you wanted to simulate 1,000 users at one time, they are logging at a single time, how will you do manually? You need to arrange 1,000 testers, 1,000 people, 1,000 manual interaction. So how you do that? You can use some scripts, like in the parallelly it will open the 1,000 sessions and try to log in the back end, and then see whether the application still working fine. Some users may get, okay, uh, page not found, or some issues, that loader keep or loading on, like those things. So you can read little bit deeper about this, what is stress load performance testing. Okay, so now okay, so if I wanted to talk about a load, here we set some threshold value to break our application. So load testing is performed to determine how many users the system can handle. Let's say when there are 1000 users, then how the system will handle. The example is like 1000 users are chatting simultaneously in the WhatsApp app. Do we really getting all the messages in time? Does it working fine, or does it crashing? I just took the example, but the case might be different. Login example also kind of example. But in the stress testing, limit is above the threshold of the break. Now you know that 1000 user, I get a message in 2 seconds. Now let's increase them to 2000 and just wait what happens. If your system is working really fine, then again increase the load. Again increase the load. This type of things you can do. Like again, the good example is like consider when there is a big sale on consumer website like Flipkart and Amazon, then the number of users grow. So you should be ready always for this scenario. So company always done this in their background. They already have a team to do this. They know that okay, these many users come online. Whether our system should be always available to the user. So they take care of it. So they take the necessary measures to avoid any crash or any unknowns. Okay. Okay, so this all about this. Let me go to the next slide. So you might have, before going to next slide, you might have got some question in your mind. When to use and when to apply this particular type? To answer this question, there are some constraints like what kind of applications do you have? So you cannot do this everything. So these are the basic things, but there are some more types, but you cannot apply these all types in the one shot. Sometimes you don't need a performance testing. Sometimes you really need it. So it's depend on do we really have a time? Do we have enough testers in a place? Do you have talent in your team? Talent means uh, are there any people who know the performance testing? How to do that? Uh, like security testing? How to do the security testing? Documentation testing is fine. You just have to review the documents, make sure uh, everything is drafted correctly. There is no wrong steps has been given in the document. So anyone can do that, but to do this you need a domain knowledge. Okay. If you talk about usability testing, so this is like something different. It's like user UI UX user experience when there is design. So you need to design. Okay, I can give you the example. When you open some app and there is a two fields like username and password. When you click on username, you see suddenly the username makes it zoom, and when you exit, it will go back. When you click on password, again it will be zoom. So it's like a usability. So the user will be happy here. If you click on username and if you are not able to type, what you cannot even see that what you have typed, and you are again typing something wrong, again correcting it, so user will be frustrated. So the usability testing is like how you easily use the application or software. Okay, so this all when to apply them is all depend on some timing issues. What kind of project do you have? Do we really have the money? Do you really have the talent in your team? But in some softwares this is mandatory. Some part of the testing is mandatory, like healthcare systems. So you need to do this security testing, also this testing seriously, regression testing, make sure everything is proper, risk level testing. So there is something like okay, if what happens, what kind of measures we can take. So to avoid some unknowns, we need to do this kind of testings. Okay, so let's move to the manual testing. Okay, so this is self-explanatory. Now we are really coming to the manual testing, automation testing. So this is self-explanatory. Manual testing is the process in which QA analysts execute the test one by one. Okay, they execute it. They take the one test case, they start the execution. They take another test case, they start the execution like this. Okay, but in the automation testing, is the process in which testers utilizes the tool and script to automate testing. So you should need a programming knowledge. You need the programming skills to design the scripts. And when you design those scripts, you can just feed it to the system. Okay, and just think it would be really great if the computer can run the test on the application all by itself. So you just simply load the your scripts and application is doing all those things what manual tester is supposed to do. So it will be really nice, right? Then what will happen here, the manual testers is a time consuming but less efficient. Okay, so let's say in the first like part 1 you are running 1000 test cases. Okay, you find some bugs. Part 2, again you are running 1000 test cases, or maybe you can do the sanity or smoke. But somewhere, some point of time you need to run it again to make sure okay everything is working fine. So it is taking more time. So if you are you can let's say the one only in your team there is only one tester, then to execute 1000 test cases it might be taking 30 days for him. So it's time consuming, less efficient. Okay, and now if you talk about the manual test as automation testing is a less time consuming, more efficient. Okay, so what is happening here, let me go back. So what is happening here, so you are simply giving your scripts to the computer, computer is doing it, but here everything is happening in the background, so your script is taking care of it. The advantage of this is like execution will be done by computer itself, and we cannot save, and sorry, we can save the manual efforts on the tests which are frequently repeated, like a regression test. First part 1 you run the 1000 test cases, again part 2 you are running the same 1000 test cases. You can simply give it to the testing. You know, these automation test cases can be executed on different machine with different OS platform combinations. Also, multiple tests can run parallelly. Okay, if you want to do the manual testing in parallelly, you have to just increase your manual testers, QA analysts like 1, 2, 3, 4 to reduce the timing. Okay, but let's say your single scripts can run the job parallelly. Your single scripts can run on multiple OS versions like Windows, Linux. If your application is supposed to work on, is supposed to be multi-platform kind of a design, if you have like a platform independent software, then to make sure your software is working fine, you need to test it on specific OS. Like okay, I say my software work on Linux also perfectly fine, and Windows also. I claim that, right? To make that claim true, you need to verify that on the Windows also and then Linux also. Maybe if you have 1000 test cases, it will become a 2000 now. So if let's consider now if you have a script and if you give it to the system will do that. Okay, but it requires a programming skill and you need to learn some programming language. I will discuss about that in future slide. So there are one thing I just wanted to clear. There are some questions. I will ask this kind of a question. Can automation testing replace manual testing? In future, now we are talking about okay, automation testing, then some freshers who's listening to this session, they might be thinking okay, there is no more manual testing. But no, automated automation testing will not replace manual testing. You need both manual and automation testing. Manual testing handles complex test cases, while automated testing handle simple and more repetitive cases. So if you really have complex scenario, let's say out of 1000 test cases, 10 test cases can be done manually, so you can reserve them. Okay, 10 will be done by the manual team, but rest of the 900, like the rest of the out of 1000 test cases, I will give 10 to the manual testers and remaining I will take care of it. So see the you so you know that here the manual testers also required, because you cannot script them in a automated way because it's really complex. So let's give it to the manual guys. So this is really required. So manual testers also required in your team. Now responsibilities, if you talk about the responsibilities, there are different responsibilities for manual testers and different responsibilities for automation test engineers. For manual testers, analyzing the requirements, test cases writing, review meeting, test environment setup, defect, communication, reporting. And for automation testing, identification. What is this identification means? Means identify how many test cases we can automate out of the total test cases. As I told you, there are 1000 test cases. 10 test cases are very complex. Then just automate remaining test cases. Okay, so you can make a decision here. Then what you will do, you will start writing a script, whether it is in any language. Then you choose a framework. So the framework, choosing the framework is depend on your organization also. If your organization is already using some paid framework, commercial framework, you can use that. Or you, if there is no automation, if you wanted to start the automation, then you study what framework I should use. Shall I use a, if it is a web application, shall I use go for a Selenium? If you wanted to write a automated test case for mobile, shall I use the APM because APM is for mobile? Then maintenance. Maintenance is very important because when you write test cases, so in the first place, when you write a test cases, automated script or test cases, everything is working fine. But what happens? The UI suddenly changes. I will give the example why the maintenance is required in the automation. In the first time when the developer has given you the build, in the first release, let's say release 1.0, the UI is like enter username password and then click on login. You goes to the home page. Okay, everything is fine. Now you have written the script and you are verifying that. Okay, when I enter username password, when I press on login, I can see the home screen. But in the release 2, what they have changed, what the developer has changed, when you enter username and password, rather than it is going to the home screen, you see the license agreement, terms and condition agreement. So then your test will fail. Then what you need to do for release 2.0, then which is like a next release, you need to modify your script and you need to handle that pop-up, terms and condition pop-up. Okay, then you say accept and then you see the home screen. There the maintenance will be required. Let's say if 1000 test cases are getting affected, but it will not happen, then you need to have strong design, you need to have strong selection of the framework to minimize or to reduce the maintenance. Okay, there are some more responsibilities, but if these red things are the common responsibilities for the automation test engineers, like review meeting, they also need to do review meeting. They also need to set up the test environment, or they can reuse it, which is already created by manual guys. They also uh, find out the defect when they run their scripts, and if they find out, okay, some scripts are failing, that was not failing earlier. So they do the investigation why it is failing. If they found something unusual, they report it. They communicate. Communication is very important. Some this manual test engineers and automation test engineer, they has to be always in the sync, or their communication, their idea sharing, their knowledge sharing also important. Reporting, both has to do reporting, but the reporting here is like automated, here it is manual. Okay, if you still have some confusion, just drop me the message below in the comment, or like you can ask the questions. Hmm. So now let's go for tools and techniques. Okay, so the most famous tools, open source tools like Selenium and the APM. So I'm just covering here the most famous and open source tool. There are many more tools available in the market. If I'm talking about Selenium, Selenium is a browser testing. It's open source. It's also support most programming language. Means you can write your script in Java, PHP, even C Sharp, Python. Okay. So when you wanted to automate your browser, means web application, then you can make a choice to use a Selenium. Also it supports many browsers like Chrome, Mozilla, even Opera, Internet Explorer, like that. And there is another tool. Suppose now you wanted to test the mobile application, then you cannot use a Selenium here. Then what you need to do, you need to use a APM. The underlying concept is like they use a Selenium only internally, but you cannot use Selenium directly here. So when you wanted to test your app, you need to use this tool APM. This also open source. It has many programming language support, like you can write your program in Java, C Sharp, Python. Okay, and it also supports multiple platform, like your scripts, the same scripts you can run even on Windows, in the Android or iOS. But like I told you, the same scripts with minimal changes. It's like, okay, the app, now you have released your app for Android, so you have Android related test cases. Now you have released your app for iOS, then you have iOS related test cases. So you need to design your automation scripting in such a way that they can execute it on the different platform with the same script. But I just wanted to tell you here, that is like optimization and decision making, architecture decision, all those things come in picture. But here APM is meant, is mostly used to do the mobile app testing, and Selenium is mostly used to do the browser application testing. Okay, but if you start with the about tool, and if you start practical cons like practically, if you just download them and start writing the code, it will be easy for you just to apply for the interviews. Like in the resume, at least you can mention, okay, I know automation tool, I can write automation scripts, I have done that practically, so the chances will be more. Using about tools, you can apply below techniques, like you can run also your automated test in parallel. You can create a generic framework on top of this tool. So framework design, I will be coming up with some video series in upcoming lectures, so we will talk there about this framework design and all. But now I will be creating also I'll be creating a video series on how to apply these techniques in the practice. So please subscribe to my channel and you will be notified once it is available. Okay, so now let's go to the certification. So to gain a detailed knowledge, you should do a certification. Why you should do certification? To gain the detailed knowledge. Certification also opens door for your job opportunity. Okay, the advantage of certification is to gain a good amount of knowledge and use that knowledge in your testing career. Why we do the certification? To gain the good amount of knowledge, and this certification really good. So I suggest ISTQB related certification, and I have done that. I am like foundation level I have completed and advanced level test automation engineer. So I am ISTQB foundation level certified and the advanced level automation engineer certified, and they are really good. So when you do the certification, you will really realize that okay, we are learning a lot about testing. So it's really good. But wait here, don't directly jump and apply for the certification. When to do certification? So I wanted to tell you when you should do that. First, make sure you have at least 1 or 2 years of job experience. Second, if you are a fresher but still interested in certification, then make sure at least you gain a practical knowledge of testing. I am telling you this because when you study for certification, you will be confused about some terminology, some words, some concept. But if you have already have a practical knowledge, then it will be very easy to clear the certification exam. Without study, it's difficult to clear the certification exam and it's loss of your money. So the attempts will be very less, and they are passing like for foundation only 65% you need to pass, really pass the exam. Okay, I will uh, just drop these links as part of this session description, so you can go and just explore about this. If you have any question, just say, like, you can comment it, I will answer your question about these certifications. how to do and from where, how to apply for them, how to book the exam, what material to study. There are some lectures available online like a Udemy, some online portal, or you can join some classes. Uh, but in the lockdown everything is online now, so I know that you can just attend some like classes, or even if you go to their official website and if you download their doc, you can read about their documentation. Okay, so now I just wanted to tell you I will be uploading the video series soon on my channel, that is Test Basics. In this I will teach Python required for automation testing, Selenium, how to call a Selenium methods from Python, how to automate the browser testing, etc. etc. Also, I will teach about the most trending concept like a BDD, behavior driven development. As part of the BDD, we will write a Gherkin scenario. You can also call this as a test cases required for automation purpose. I will explain you in detail in that video series using the Behave library. Also, the IBase Academy is planning to launch some interactive courses, so maybe I will be coming there also to teach those things practically and interactively, so you can contact to the IBase for that. I will cover full BDD Gherkin topic as part of the upcoming video series. Once you learn BDD, then you can use that in any other programming language like Java, C Sharp, but underlying library will be different. For Python, it's a behave for writing the Gherkin. So my intention is if you learn the basics, like you can use this BDD concept in C Sharp also, Python also, Java also. And what we will do in this part, we will write a Python code to automate some Selenium scripts. Okay, so let me show you some demo. Okay, so I will show you some demo here. Let me open PyCharm. Sorry, I was not able to open the PyCharm. Yes, it is opening. It's taking little time. Hope you're able to see my screen now. So I just want to tell you, see, this is the PyCharm which we will use for our Python, and we will write a Python code. So if I go to the settings, hope everyone is online and watching this session. And if I go to the interpreter, Python interpreter, then you can see here I have installed the behave, which will be required for the BDD, and then Selenium. So you can see the Selenium we will be using for our browser automation. So the behave and Selenium, behave we are using for the BDD and Selenium for the browser automation. Okay, and the Python. So everything I am writing inside the Python. So and I will be teaching you the Python in object oriented way, like a class, an object type of things. We will be not writing a simple structure code base. So everything will be the kind of object oriented. So if you see here, this is a one class, this is another class. In this first class, I am just setting up the Chrome driver because I wanted to launch the Chrome, and then I just have to what I'm doing here, I will be launching the Chrome, then I'm navigating to this particular URL, then I maximize the browser, then I get the title, and I search for Python for beginners. Okay, so let me run this. So when I run this, oh, it is coming in this other screen. So it launches. Now see, it maximized the browser and it searched for Python for beginners. Okay, so this is the browser launched by the particular script, and also it just printed out welcome to python.org. So it is printed welcome to python.org. So what it does printed. So uh, so if you see here, I just created the object of my demo class. Then I given the URL, which URL I should log in. Then I maximize the browser, and then I get the title, and then Python, and then I search for demos. Like I search for this particular string. So I can go to the google.com also now. So let me just type here www.google.com. Okay, now let me run this. Run launch browser. See, it does open the google.com and it maximizes the window and it searches for the Python for beginners. Okay, it just search for Python for beginners. So this is how what we did here. So this is very like object oriented way of writing the program. Some methods we have parameterized this method, just pass the strings and it will search for it. So like here I can pass now youtube.com. So and this run and launch the browser. So it's launching, opening the browser first place. It is opening the youtube.com, and then okay, I'm getting some pop-ups, and then it search for those things. Okay, so this is the automation I'm covering, and it gives me the error for the YouTube because it not able to find this particular search box, like because that pop-ups occurs, and when you see that pop-up, it's not able to find the YouTube input bar in search bar where it can type Python for beginners. Okay, so like this. So now also I wanted to tell you what is BDD. So when you talk about the BDD is like a behavior driven development. In the behavior driven development, you will have this kind of courses like, okay, no, sorry, not courses. You will have some, that is a total different concept. What is BDD, behavior driven development, where we will be writing a scenario in Gherkin when then. So to prove that concept, there is a tools which came in the practice, and uh, that is like we use the behave for Python. For C sharp we use a specflow, and for Java we use a cucumber. Okay, so this is a kind of a very simple English based communication language. Just consider this as my scenario. So what I'm telling, this is my feature showing of behave. Okay, scenario, what is the scenario? Run a simple browser test. So here it is given we have a Chrome installed. When we navigate to www.python.com, then browser will open and print the welcome to Python.org. So if you these words has a meaning. Given means is a precondition, when is a action, and then is a like result. Okay, so here expectation. This is the expectation also you can call, and this is the name of the test case. So I will talk in the detail in my upcoming video series where I'll explain you the basics. I will also explain you what is a BDD, because it really needs some 15-20 minutes to understand why BDD came in market, what is the real use of it, how it bridges the communication gap in between different stakeholders in the company. So this is what we are going to discuss. Okay, so this is the demo. Now let me go back to my slide, and now this is the summary. So what we have done. So we learn testing, software testing and types of testing. Also we cover the manual automation testing and certification for the same. Initially I teach you the testing because that was very important if you are looking for a testing career. Now you can ask me the questions in the comment or now also in as part of the chat. Okay. So I'm done here and I really say thanks to everyone for joining this live session and thank you IBES team for organizing this session. This is like a first time opportunity for me to come online and teach, share my knowledge. If anything I missed or something, just type out in the comment, or if I speak something wrong, just also you can point me out those things as part of comment. Stay in touch with IBES for my upcoming sessions. If you really love my session, please hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel TA Basics. I will provide the link below in description. If you do like and subscribe to my video, you will receive notification for upcoming videos and also I will get motivated and bring you the amazing sessions for you. I am here just to share the knowledge. I just wanted to share my knowledge with you guys, whatever experience I have gained. If you have any further question, please don't forget to post them in the comment below. Finally, have a nice Sunday, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and wash your hands and wear a mask regularly. Bye bye. See you soon.